Captain Hayes stood in the command center of New Terra Colony and watched the screens light up with red warning signals. The distress call had come through 14 minutes ago. Now the entire defense team was moving fast, checking equipment and confirming positions. This was not a drill. The research vessel called the Aurora had been exploring space near the outer rim of human territory. It was supposed to send regular reports back to the colony. Instead, it sent one final message: "We are under attack." The message ended. Nothing came after that. It was a tall man with a strong face and dark eyes that never seemed to miss anything. He had been a military officer for 25 years. He had fought in smaller conflicts, led defense missions on other worlds, and always kept his people alive. But he had never heard of this kind of attack before. The technology signatures coming back from the Aurora's last position did not match any known weapons system in human files. Lieutenant Jacob Grant stood next to, studying the same data. Jacob was younger, only 32, but he had fast hands and a sharp mind. He had been trained well. "The signal pattern is wrong," Jacob said quietly. "Look at the energy signature. It is not like anything we have in the database." Nodded, he saw it too. "Get Dr. Wells here now and contact Governor Cole. We need a full council meeting in 20 minutes. Jacob moved to the communication panel and began making calls. Within 2 minutes, the command center became busy. People who had been resting or working on other tasks suddenly found themselves back at their posts. New Terra had been peaceful for a long time. The colony was built 30 years ago, and for the last 3 decades, the biggest problems had been farming yields, weather patterns, and the occasional accident. No one had expected to face military action. No one had prepared for this. Dr. Wells arrived in 10 minutes. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms and unknown signals. She was also one of the people on New Terra and trusted her judgment. She looked at the data without speaking for almost a minute. "These weapons are not crude," said finally. "They are not trying to destroy the ship carefully. They are trying to destroy it completely, and the energy output suggests they have technology we do not understand." Could they be human? Governor Richard Cole had arrived and stood behind them, looking at the screens. "No," said firmly. "No human colony has this kind of power, and no human colony operates this far out. These are alien weapons, and they are powerful." Felt something cold move through his chest. They had always known this was possible. When humanity started traveling to other worlds, the military planners had always said this moment might come. But knowing something was possible and facing it were two different things. Governor Cole was a smart political leader, but he was not a military man. He looked worried. "How many ships are coming? Where are they?" "We do not know yet," said. "The Aurora's last signal was from Sector 794. That is 15 light hours away. Even if they are traveling fast, we have at least 12 to 14 hours before they reach New Terra if they are coming here at all." But knew they were coming. A ship that powerful attacking a human research vessel would want to know where that ship came from. The Aurora's logs were encrypted, but a space-faring species that advanced might be able to crack them. They would follow the trail back to New Terra. It was the logical choice. "We need to prepare," said. "We do not know how many ships they have, how many soldiers, or what their actual firepower is, but we need to assume the worst." Over the next 4 hours, the colony became something different. People who had lived in peace for years suddenly understood that danger was real, ordered partial evacuations of non-essential workers to underground shelters. He stationed security teams at the power plants and water processing centers. He checked the weapons they had, which was not a large supply. New Terra was a colony, not a military base. Jacob came to him around midnight. "We have families asking where to go. We have people who are scared. The children are asking questions we do not have answers for." Understood the problem. Fear was spreading through the colony like water through cracks. People needed to know what was happening and what would happen next. "Where is the deepest shelter?" asked. "Below the agricultural sector, about 4 kilometers down," Jacob said. "It was built when the colony started, old safety protocols." "Move the children there," said. "Move anyone who cannot fight there. Tell them we are putting them in a safe place while we handle a problem up here. Tell them the grown-ups have a plan." But did not have a plan. Not yet. He had the beginning of something, the first idea of a possible strategy, but it was dangerous, and it required the aliens to do exactly what he thought they would do. If he was wrong, New Terra would fall. He decided to visit the shelters before the children settled in for the night. He walked down the corridors with Jacob, going deeper into the colony, descending into the protected spaces below the surface. He found a girl sitting alone in one of the shelter rooms. Her name was, and she was 7 years old. Her mother worked in the medical center and had already been moved to her own assignment, looked small and frightened. Sat down next to the girl slowly, making himself less tall, less threatening. "Are you scared?" asked him. Could have lied, he could have given her false comfort, but was looking right at him, and he knew children could sense dishonesty. So he told her the truth. "Yes," said, "I am scared too. Something scary is happening, but scared is not the same as giving up. We are scared, but we are going to do the right thing anyway. That is what courage really is. It is not the feeling of not being scared. It is doing what is right even when you are scared." Looked at him for a long moment. "Will the grown-ups keep us safe?" "I will try," said. "That is all anyone can do." An hour later, sat in the command center again with Governor Cole, Wells, and the senior staff. They had less than 8 hours now until the aliens might arrive. "What do you want to do?" Governor Cole asked. Looked at each person in the room. He saw fear in some faces and determination in others. He took a slow breath. "We are going to do something that will seem crazy," said. "We are going to tell them we surrender." Everyone stared at him. "We are going to tell them we give up," continued. "We are going to let them come to the colony. We are going to make them believe they have already won. And while they are thinking they have won, we are going to prepare something they will never expect." "That is insane," one officer said. "Maybe," agreed. "But they are expecting us to run or to fight from a distance. They are expecting us to act like a military power. We are not. We are a colony. And sometimes the best defense is making your enemy believe they have already won." Governor Cole sat very still. Then he nodded slowly. "Tell me the rest of your plan," Cole said. Began to speak, and as he talked, he could see the first signs of hope coming back into the faces around him. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea if the plan would work. But they had something now. They had a direction. They had purpose. Outside, in the darkness above New Terra, nothing yet moved in the void of space. But in the deep black, far beyond the colony's sensors, something was coming. Something ancient, something powerful, something that had never lost a war. They had set their trap perfectly. They believed they had already the alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Terra system exactly when it predicted. 12 hours and 43 minutes after the distress call. The ships were massive. They were shaped like predators, long and lean, with weapon turrets that extended from their hulls like teeth. 3 heavy battle cruisers and 7 smaller attack vessels surrounded a command ship that was twice the size of anything humanity had ever built. The colony's sensors picked them up immediately. Alarms sounded throughout New Terra. Governor Cole sat in the command center, watching the screens as the alien ships took position at the outer edge of the system. "They are not moving toward us," Jacob reported. "They are stationing themselves for observation. They are taking time." That was good, had expected this. A species that had conquered other worlds would be confident. They would take their time. They would believe the humans were already defeated. Then the transmission came. The aliens used human language, which meant they had accessed the Aurora's database and learned English in hours. Their communication device created a voice that sounded mechanical but clear. "Humans of the colony designation New Terra, you are in possession of space-faring technology. You have violated boundaries set by the collective. You will now surrender all advanced technology. You will accept governance. You will dismantle all military installations. You will hand over your leadership for processing. Do this, and we will allow your population to live as workers under our control. Refuse, and we will exterminate every living thing in this system. You have 1 solar cycle to respond." The transmission ended. The command center went quiet. Everyone had heard the choice: surrender everything or die. Governor Cole looked at. Now said, "We do it now." Cole nodded and activated the communication system. His voice was steady as he recorded the response. To anyone listening, he sounded like a defeated man making the only choice a reasonable leader could make. "This is Governor Richard Cole of New Terra Colony. We accept the terms of surrender. We will disable all weapons. We will prepare the colony for your arrival. We ask only that you show mercy to our civilian population, especially our children." The message was transmitted. For 30 seconds there was silence. Then the alien commander's voice came back. Compliance noted. We will begin landing operations in 12 hours. Have your leaders and all technology items prepared for retrieval. The transmission ended. Only then did allow himself to breathe. Begin Phase 1, he said to Jacob. Jacob nodded and activated a secure channel. Messages went out to every section of the colony simultaneously. All the plans they had prepared, all the preparations that had seemed crazy, now became real. Dr. Stephen Hart was the chief engineer of New Terra. She was a woman in her middle 50s who understood machines better than most people understood people. She had been given one very specific task and she had spent the last 10 hours gathering what she needed. The industrial mining equipment of New Terra was powerful. It was designed to move massive amounts of rock and earth. It had hydraulic systems, electromagnetic guides, and heavy drilling equipment. It was not a weapon. But Dr. Hart knew how to make it become one. She worked in a sealed section of the colony where no one could see what she was doing. She had 12 engineers with her, all of them sworn to secrecy. They took the mining equipment apart. They removed the drilling mechanisms. They replaced them with equipment that had never been designed for this purpose, but which would work anyway. Plasma conduits from the colony's power systems, particle accelerators from the physics research lab, focused electromagnetic pulses, concentrated energy release systems. It was crude compared to the weapons the aliens had, but it did not need to be advanced. It needed to work once. Meanwhile, Dr. Wells was working on something different. The Aurora had crashed somewhere in the outer system. Its wreckage had been studied through long-range sensors, had found something in the debris patterns that should not have been there. Biological material. An alien soldier had been killed in the attack, and a piece of its body had been ejected into space, where the vacuum had preserved it. The recovery team had brought it back 12 hours ago. It was floating in a sealed container in the research lab. Studied it carefully. The alien was humanoid, roughly. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, but there was something else. There were neural connections that ran through the body in a different pattern than human neural systems. There was extra circuitry, almost as if something external was connected to the brain. Made a hypothesis. She worked through the night, testing tissue samples, running analysis after analysis. By the time the sun came up on New Terra, she had confirmed what she suspected. They were not truly individuals. They were connected to something larger, a collective consciousness, a hive mind. Every soldier was like a cell in a body, receiving signals and commands from some central source. The neural connections were designed to receive transmission on a specific frequency. Found that frequency in the dead alien's brain tissue. She came to with the information just as the sun reached its highest point in the New Terra sky. They are hive-minded, said simply. If we can disrupt the frequency that connects them, even for a short time, they will lose coordination. They will not be able to communicate with each other or with their command structure. They will be confused, frightened, possibly. Understood immediately. This was the advantage he had been looking for. It was not a guarantee of victory, but it was a chance. How do we create a disruption? We have atmospheric processors throughout the colony, said. The same ones that keep our air clean and safe. Dr. Hart says they can be modified. We can release a chemical compound directly into the air. The compound will interfere with the neural frequency. If the aliens breathe our atmosphere, it will affect them within minutes. Nodded slowly. When they are in the colony, said. When they are on the ground, when they think they have won and they are safe. The next 6 hours were spent in final preparation. The colonists who knew the real plan worked in controlled sections of New Terra. Everyone else was kept in the shelters or given false assignments that made them feel useful. The children, including, stayed deep below the surface where it was safe. At midnight, the alien fleet moved closer. The command ship positioned itself over the colony. A transmission came through. We are beginning landing operations. Have your leaders and population gathered at the colony center. We will begin extraction of your technology and personnel. Stood in the command center with Governor Cole, Wells, and Jacob Grant. All around them, screens showed the alien landing craft descending through New Terra's atmosphere. Dozens of them, coming down toward the colony. This is it, said. Either we change the game or we just lost everything. You have changed it, said firmly. I know you have. These creatures have never fought anything that would not break. They have never faced a species that would fight back even when it looked like fighting was impossible. They do not understand people like us. The landing craft touched down all around the colony. Ramps opened. Alien soldiers began to emerge. They were tall, almost 9 feet high. They had hard skin that looked like armor. They carried weapons that burned with energy. There must have been at least 500 of them, maybe more. And they believed they had already won. They had no idea that around them, hidden in the buildings and the industrial areas and the maintenance shafts, 237 human soldiers were waiting. They had no idea that the air they were about to breathe had been saturated with a compound that would tear apart the neural connections that made them a unified force. They had no idea that humanity was about to teach them the most important lesson any species could learn. Never underestimate the people who have everything to lose. The first alien soldiers began walking toward the colony center. Their commander, a being that would later learn was called Unit 7, a designation that meant nothing to humans but everything to the, stepped out of a landing craft and looked around at the colony. Unit 7 saw what looked like a defeated human population. Unit 7 saw what appeared to be a colony that had the compound spread through the colony in minutes. It was colorless and odorless to human senses, but they detected it immediately. The first sign of a problem came when Unit 7 suddenly stopped moving. The alien commander's head tilted at an angle, as if the being was listening to something. Then they began to scream. The sound was awful. It was not like human screaming. It was a sound that came from a being experiencing pain and terror at the same time. Within seconds, dozens of aliens were making the same sound. Their coordination broke instantly. They began to move without direction or purpose. Some fell to their knees. Some fired their weapons randomly at the structures around them. Others began to attack each other, unable to distinguish friend from enemy. The neural frequency that connected them to the hive consciousness was shattered. Every soldier in the colony was suddenly alone in its own mind for the first time in its life. The experience was devastating. Now, said into the communication system, all units move now. The human soldiers emerged from their positions. They came from the buildings, from the industrial areas, from the underground tunnels. They were not soldiers in the traditional sense. Most of them had never been in actual combat. They were engineers and farmers and teachers and scientists who had picked up weapons because their home was under attack. But they had training, and they had something they did not have in this moment, clarity of purpose. The adapted mining equipment moved into position. Dr. Hart had reinforced the structures and mounted the modified plasma weapons onto mobile platforms. The heavy vehicles moved slowly, but when they fired, the energy blast was powerful enough to disable the alien weapon systems. A young lieutenant named Susan Walker led the first unit forward. She was 31 years old and had never killed anything more dangerous than a hunting animal until today, but she did what her training taught her. She aimed at the aliens who were trying to organize themselves despite the neural disruption. She fired. An alien soldier fell. Around the colony, similar scenes were happening. The humans were advancing and the aliens were in chaos. But it was not a clean victory. They still had superior weapons. They still had armor that was harder than human armor. When an alien soldier managed to aim and fire through the neural confusion, human soldiers died. Watch the screens in the command center, seeing the battle unfold in real time from multiple camera positions. He could see his people fighting and dying. He could see the aliens struggling to remember how to be soldiers when they were no longer connected to the unified consciousness that had made them unstoppable. Unit 7 had fallen to the ground when the neural disruption began, but the commander was recovering faster than the others. Something in Unit 7's neural structure was different, stronger perhaps, or more deeply hardwired to individual thought than the other soldiers. The alien was slowly regaining control, pushing through the pain and confusion. Jacob Grant saw Unit 7 moving toward the command center. He was not a soldier by training, but he was fast and he was smart. He grabbed a weapon from one of the supply stations and moved to intercept the alien commander. Jacob, no, said, do not engage Unit 7 alone. But Jacob was already moving. He positioned himself between Unit 7 and the entrance to the command center. He raised the weapon. Unit 7 looked at Jacob with eyes that were beginning to focus again. The alien commander's voice came out in fragments, words that were being translated by the device even though the being was only half conscious. You are not strong, Unit 7 said. Humans are primitive, we did not. Fail. You did fail, Jacob said. You failed because you did not understand what you were fighting against. Jacob fired. The energy blast caught Unit 7 in the left side of the chest. The alien screamed and fell, but Jacob did not kill Unit 7, had given specific orders about that. The alien commander was still moving, still alive. Two soldiers rushed forward and secured Unit 7 with restraint equipment. The commander's eyes were still conscious, still aware, but the body would not obey anymore. The battle continued for another 37 minutes. The humans were winning, but the cost was mounting. 15 human soldiers were dead. 23 were wounded. The aliens were losing more, but they were dying with weapons still in their hands, still dangerous even as they died. Then suddenly it stopped. The remaining alien soldiers, realizing they were surrounded and losing, began to retreat toward their landing craft. The human defenders allowed them to go. There was no point in continuing. The aliens had come to conquer. They were now fleeing for their lives. The orbital alien fleet, seeing their ground forces destroyed and their commander captured, made a different choice. They began to move, but not toward the colony. They began to move away, preparing to jump to faster-than-light travel. But the human defenders had prepared for this too. The colony's orbital defense stations, old equipment that had been maintained for decades but never used, came online. They were not as powerful as the alien weapons, but they were coordinated now. 3 humans in the defense station worked together with precision. One alien attack ship was hit and began to fall toward the planet's surface. Another was damaged but managed to reach escape velocity. The rest of the alien fleet jumped to faster than light, leaving behind only the damage they had caused and the shame of their defeat. When it was over, the colony fell silent. Left the command center and walked through the corridors of New Terra, seeing the damage that had been done. Buildings were burning. The ground was scorched. Emergency teams were moving through the areas, looking for survivors and carrying away the injured and the dead. He found Wells in the medical center, helping the doctors treat the wounded. Her clothes were stained with blood, though it was not her own. She looked at, and he could see the weight of what they had done in her eyes. "How many?" asked. 42 confirmed dead, said quietly. 30 more with serious injuries. We will lose some of them, maybe 2 or 3 more before tomorrow. Closed his eyes for a moment. 42 humans dead. 42 people who had lived their lives in peace and had died in a war they did not choose. "The aliens?" he asked. "All 194 that we faced are either dead or captured," said. "We have Unit 7 in a secure holding area. The commanders want to know what to do with the alien." Nodded, he walked to the holding area where Unit 7 was restrained. The alien commander looked up at him with eyes that had regained some of their focus. "You won," Unit 7 said, the words coming slowly. "How?" Stood before the alien and spoke carefully, knowing the translation device was carrying his words to the consciousness that was now so far away. "You believed we were weak because we are young. You believed we would surrender because we lack power. But humans do not give up, Unit 7. We adapt. We improvise. We see solutions where others see only impossible choices. You came here expecting to find a broken species. Instead, you found the one thing that terrifies civilizations everywhere. You found humans with nothing to lose and everything they love to protect." Unit 7 stared at without speaking. "We did not win because we are superior," continued. "We won because when everything was against us, we refused to quit. That is the thing about humanity. We were born on a harsh world that wanted us dead every day, and we survived. We always survive." Turned and left the holding cell. Behind him, Unit 7 remained in silence, processing the defeat that the collective would have to face when the surviving ships returned to report what had happened. In the underground shelters, a young girl named was told that the fighting was over. She asked if Captain Hayes had been hurt. The answer was yes. Hayes had been exposed to the neural disruption compound during the battle. He was alive, but he was unconscious. Asked if he would wake up. The doctors said they did not know. It depended on how much of the compound he had breathed. It depended on his body's ability to recover. For now, he was stable. For now, he was alive. Sat by Hayes' medical bed for 2 hours, not speaking, just watching the man breathe. She did not understand everything that had happened. She did not understand war or strategy or victory, but she understood that Captain Hayes had fought so that she could be safe. And she understood that sometimes, Courage meant getting hurt to protect the people you loved. The colony had won, but the cost had been written in blood and loss and pain. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the surviving ships were traveling back to their home, carrying the message that would change everything the galaxy believed about humanity. Dr. Wells did not sleep for 36 hours after the battle ended. She worked in the medical center, moving from patient to patient, checking vital signs and making decisions about who needed the most urgent care. The neural disruption compound had affected more than just the aliens. 7 human colonists had been exposed to heavy concentrations of the chemical during the fighting. One was Captain Hayes. Another was a young soldier named David Park, who was only 24 years old. The third was an engineer named Cole, the governor's sister. The doctors could not be certain how much damage the compound had caused to human brains. Human and neural structures were different. The compound had been designed to target the specific frequency that connected the alien hive mind. But human neurons operated differently. Some exposure to the chemical might have side effects, or it might do nothing at all. Stood over Hayes as he lay unconscious on a medical bed. His breathing was steady. His heart rate was normal, but he would not wake up. She checked his neural scans again and again, looking for signs of recovery, looking for any indication that his mind was intact behind the closed eyes. Governor Richard Cole came to the medical center on the morning after the battle. He had blood on his hands from helping move bodies out of the damaged sections of the colony. His face was gray from exhaustion and grief. He walked to the bed where his sister lay unconscious. "Will she wake up?" he asked. "I do not know," said honestly. "The compound affects them because of their neural structure. Your sister's brain is different from theirs. I hope that means she will recover, but I cannot promise anything." Cole nodded slowly. He reached out and held his sister's hand. His hands were shaking. "How many did we lose?" he asked. 42 dead, said. 7 more are in critical condition. We still have people in the surgical units. We might lose another 3 or 4 before tonight. And 3 more people died from injuries sustained during the fighting. So more than 42. The final number will probably be between 48 and 52. Cole closed his eyes. "We won." "Yes," said. "But we lost everything," Cole said. "No," said firmly. "We lost good people, we lost people we loved, but we still have the colony, we still have our families, we still have our freedom. They came here expecting to take everything from us. They did not expect resistance. They did not expect that humans would fight for what mattered. They were wrong, and now they know it." Over the next 3 days, the colony began the process of healing. Work teams cleared away debris. Engineers assessed the damage to the buildings and the power systems. People held memorial ceremonies for the dead. Children were brought up from the deep shelters and slowly reintroduced to the sunlight and the world above. Was one of those children. She walked through the colony with her mother, seeing the burned buildings and the scared faces and the people working hard to fix things. She asked her mother if Captain Hayes was going to wake up. "The doctors are taking care of him," her mother said. "I want to see him," said. Her mother took her to the medical center. Doctors allowed to sit in Hayes' room for an hour each day. The girl did not speak much. She just sat there, sometimes holding his hand, sometimes reading to him from children's books she had brought from the shelters. On the 5th day, Hayes opened his eyes. His vision was blurry at first. The light in the medical center was too bright, but slowly the world came into focus. He saw Wells standing over him, and he saw tears in her eyes. "Welcome back," said. Tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Gave him water, and he drank it slowly. His mind was foggy, but memory was coming back. The battle, the plan, the way everything had come apart and come together at the same time. "How long?" he asked. 5 days, said. "You were exposed to the neural disruption compound. We were not sure if you would recover, but you did. Your body processed the chemical better than we expected." "How many?" asked. 42 dead, said. 48 more if you count everyone who died from injuries in the following days. We lost good people, Captain, but we kept the colony." Closed his eyes. 48 people, 48 individuals with families and dreams and a future they would never have. The weight of that loss pressed down on him like something physical. "There is someone here to see you," said. A small girl entered the room. It was, she looked at with serious eyes. "You woke up," said. "I was reading to you and you woke up." "You were reading to me?" asked. Every day, said. I read to you about dragons and knights and people who fought for what was right. Reached out and took the girl's small hand. He did not speak. There were no words that could cover what he felt in that moment. Over the next 2 weeks, recovered enough to move around the medical center. He met with Governor Cole and the senior staff to discuss what came next. The orbital fleet had escaped, but the human colony had proved something important. They could fight. They could win. Dr. Stephen Hart came to with a report on the weapons they had used. The modified mining equipment had performed well, but Hart also had other data. The weapons are not as advanced as we thought, Hart said. We captured several of their weapons and energy systems. If I analyze the technology correctly, we might be able to improve our own systems based on what we learned. I think we could be stronger in a month than we are now. But we need to prepare for them to come back, said. That fleet that escaped will report to their command structure. They will send more ships, maybe many more. Then we prepare, said. And we warn the other human colonies. We send a message to Earth. We tell them what we learned. We tell them how to fight The colony's communication center had been damaged in the fighting, but the engineers restored it to working condition within days. Sat down and recorded a message. It was a report of the attack, the defense, the victory, and the cost. He explained the military structure. He explained how their hive mind was their weakness if you knew how to exploit it. He gave the frequencies and the methods. The message was encrypted and sent toward Earth on the fastest communication system New Terra had. It would take weeks to arrive, but it would arrive. Other human colonies would know. Other defenders would be ready. Cole woke up on the 17th day after the battle. Governor Cole was there when she opened her eyes. He wept with relief. His sister's mind was intact. The neural disruption compound had not permanently damaged her. David Park, the young soldier, also woke up, and slowly, gradually, the other humans who had been exposed to the compound recovered consciousness. Some had side effects. Some experienced temporary memory loss or headaches, but they survived. The most surprising recovery came from Unit 7, the alien commander. The officer had been kept in isolation, restrained and under guard. But Unit 7 had something interesting happening inside. Without the constant connection to the hive mind, the alien was beginning to think in ways that the collective never allowed. Unit 7 was becoming an individual. Visited the alien cell on the 21st day after the battle. Unit 7 looked at the human with something that might have been understanding. I have been thinking, Unit 7 said. For the first time in my existence, I have been thinking alone. Your compound did not kill us, it freed us. And I understand now something the collective could not accept. You are not primitive, you are different. They rely on unity and perfect obedience. You rely on something else, something stronger. Wood asked. Choice, Unit 7 said. You fought not because you were ordered to fight. You fought because you chose to. You fought because you wanted to protect what you loved. The collective never understood the power of choice. We are stronger because we are united. But humans are stronger because they choose to stand together. That is the difference between us. That is why you beat us. Walked away from the cell. He did not know if Unit 7 could be trusted. He did not know if the alien commander might be manipulating the humans, preparing some kind of counterattack. But he was beginning to think that Unit 7 might be genuinely changed by the experience of being alone in its own mind. The colony continued to rebuild. The dead were honored. The wounded healed. The damage was repaired. New Terra had come through fire and come out the other side. But everyone knew it was not over. Somewhere in space, they were preparing a response. They would not forgive 3 weeks after the battle. Hayes stood in the communication center of New Terra Colony and began to record a message intended for all of human space. The message would be sent to Earth and to every human colony that could receive it. It was not a simple report of what happened. It was a warning and a guide and a piece of hope that humanity would need in the difficult times ahead. Sat in front of the communication camera. His face was still marked by the exhaustion of recovery, but his eyes were clear and focused. He had rehearsed this message in his mind for days, understanding that his words would shape how humans everywhere responded to the threat of the... This is Captain Hayes of the New Terra Colony, he began. On this date, our colony was attacked by an alien species calling themselves the... We were told that we faced an enemy with superior technology and superior numbers. We were told that resistance was impossible. I am recording this message to tell you that we fought anyway, and we won. Went through the timeline of the attack. He explained the ships and weapons. He described the battle and the tactics that had worked, but he did not speak about victory with pride. He spoke about it with the weight of loss. "We lost 48 members of our colony," said. "Good people, fathers and mothers and children, scientists and soldiers and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That is the cost of victory. It is not clean. It is not without pain. But the alternative was to lie down and accept slavery and destruction. We chose to fight, and now so must humanity." He explained the neural disruption method. He gave the frequencies. He described how they were connected to a hive mind and how that connection was both their strength and their weakness. He provided technical data that the human engineers throughout space could use to develop their own defensive systems. "They are not invincible," said. "They are not all-powerful. They are a species like any other with strengths and weaknesses. Their weakness is that they rely on perfect unity. They cannot imagine a species that chooses to stand together instead of being forced to stand together. That is our advantage. That is humanity's advantage. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy, but we are adaptable. We improvise. We choose." The message continued for another 15 minutes. Discussed the importance of spreading this information to other human colonies, of preparing defenses, of building weapons that could counter the technology. But then he paused. He looked directly at the camera, and for a moment the warrior commander disappeared. What remained was a human being speaking about things that mattered more than tactics and technology. "I want to speak about something else now," said. "I want to speak about why we fought, not the strategic reasons, not the military logic. I want to speak about the real reason. We fought because there were children in this colony, because there were people we loved who we wanted to protect, because even though we were afraid, we chose to do the right thing anyway. That is what humanity is. That is what we do when everything is against us. We protect each other. We stand together. We refuse to quit." Told the story of. He did not use her name, but he described a young girl who had asked him if he was scared. He described how he had told her the truth instead of lying to comfort her. He described how humans often act bravely not because they are unafraid, but because they are afraid and they choose to do what is right anyway. "If they come to your colonies," said, "remember this. They believe you are weak. They believe you will surrender. They believe your young will be easy to control. They are wrong about all of this. Humans are capable of things that other species cannot imagine. We can improvise solutions that have never existed before. We can sacrifice for each other. We can choose to fight even when winning seems impossible. That is the thing that makes humanity dangerous. That is what they did not understand when they came here." The message ended with a final statement. "To the leadership of human space," said, "we must work together now. We must share what we have learned. We must prepare our colonies and our ships and our people. But we must also remember something more important than weapons and tactics. We must remember that what we are fighting for is the right to live our own lives, to make our own choices, and to protect the people we love. If we remember that, if we fight for those reasons, then I believe humanity will survive this threat. More than survive, we will prevail." The message was sent. Over the next weeks, it spread throughout human space. Every colony received it. Military strategists analyzed the tactical information. Scientists worked to develop the defensive systems had described, and people everywhere began to understand that humanity had already faced thee and had won. Governor Cole made a decision about Unit 7. After weeks of careful consideration and consultation with Cole decided to offer the alien commander something unusual. Instead of execution or permanent imprisonment, Unit 7 would be kept as an advisor. The alien would help the humans understand tactics and strategy. In return, Unit 7 would be treated with respect and would eventually be allowed limited freedom within the colony. Some colonists opposed this decision. They wanted revenge against the aliens who had attacked them, but Cole understood something important. Unit 7 represented something new. The alien was becoming an individual. The alien was beginning to understand humans and to respect them. That was more valuable than revenge. "We are not like Cole told his people. "We do not conquer. We do not destroy. When we can build something better, when we can take an enemy and turn them into something else, we do that. That is what separates us from them." Dr. Stephen Hart continued her work on weapons development, but she also focused on something else. She began to document everything they had learned from the technology. She created manuals and instruction guides that could be sent to other human colonies, so they would not have to reinvent everything. She shared her knowledge freely, understanding that human survival depended on all colonies being able to defend themselves. Wells established a memorial for the 48 colonists who had died. It was built near the central area of the colony, a simple structure with 48 names carved into stone. Every month, the colony gathered there to remember. Hayes spent time recovering his strength. He worked with Jacob Grant on military training, preparing the colony for the possibility that they would return. But he also spent time with people like. He sat with her and talked about ordinary things. He let her understand that even heroes got scared sometimes, and that was okay. One day, asked what she wanted to do when she grew up. "I want to be like you," said. "I want to protect people." "Then you will be a good soldier," said. "But remember this. The best soldiers are the ones who understand what they are fighting for. You are not fighting for power or for territory. You are fighting so that people you love can be safe. Never forget that." 38 days after the battle ended, a message arrived from Earth. The High Command of the United Earth Defense Force had received report and had analyzed all the tactical information. They sent back a simple response. New Terra colony is commended for courage and innovation in the face of an existential threat. All human colonies are now placed on Alert Level 1. Development of countermeasures is proceeding at maximum priority. Additional military support and equipment will be dispatched to all frontier colonies. The tactics employed at New Terra are being distributed to all military units. Humanity stands with New Terra colony. The message concluded with a statement from the Earth Defense Council. In the history of human space exploration, this marks a turning point. We have discovered that the universe is not as hostile as we feared, but also not as empty. We have learned that humans can prevail against technological superiority through ingenuity and courage. The trap that the set was turned against them. In doing so, humanity has announced to the galaxy that we are a species worth respecting. But the message also included a warning. The fleet that escaped had reached the collective's home system. They had reported the defeat. Military planners were already developing new strategies. A much larger force was being prepared. The attack on New Terra had not been the beginning of the war. It had been a scout mission that had failed. Now came the real conflict. 2 months after the battle, life on New Terra had returned to something that resembled normalcy. The colony worked, the fields grew, the children played. But underneath, everyone understood that this was temporary. They would return. The real war would begin. Stood on the observation platform overlooking the colony. He could see the new defensive structures being built. He could see the engineering teams working on the modified mining equipment that would serve as weapons. He could see people going about their lives, working hard, doing the ordinary things that humans did even in the face of extraordinary danger. Wells joined him on the platform. "Do you think we will beat them?" she asked. "If they come back with a larger force?" "No," said honestly. "I do not think we will beat them in a fair fight. They are stronger and they have more resources, but we will not fight fair. We will improvise. We will adapt. We will find ways to turn their strengths into weaknesses. That is what humans do." "That is not very reassuring," said. "No," agreed. "But it is the truth. They came here expecting an easy victory. They got a war instead. They learned that underestimating humans was a mistake. But that lesson alone will not keep us safe. We need to get better. We need to prepare. And we need to help every other human colony do the same." The sun was setting over New Terra. The sky turned orange and red and purple. The colony buildings cast long shadows across the ground. Somewhere in the distance, children were playing. Somewhere else, engineers were working. Somewhere else, soldiers were training. And far above, beyond the atmosphere, beyond the system, somewhere in the vast darkness of space, they were preparing for round 2. They had set a trap, expecting to catch an easy prey. Instead, they had caught something far more dangerous. They had caught humanity. And humanity had survived. Humanity had fought. Humanity had won. The trap had been turned. The lesson had been learned. And now the galaxy would have to deal with a species that had proven it would not accept defeat, would not accept slavery, and would not give up no matter what the odds were against them. This was not the end of the story. It was not even really the middle. It was simply the moment when the universe learned what it meant to challenge humanity. And that lesson they would never forget. His defeat, they would not let humanity stand unchallenged. The trap had been set by the aliens, and the trap had been turned against them. But the real war had only just begun. Given up, Unit 7 saw victory. What Unit 7 did not see was the trap that was about to close around the entire force. Raised his hand. "All atmospheric processors," he said quietly into the communication system. Release the compound, release it now. 1. They had no idea they were walking into a trap of their own.